Team Canada wins 5-1 against Team Czechia in 2026 Winter Olympics round robin. A lot to break down in this game. It was nasty. It was a nasty game. Obviously, I think the headline is Poulain. That... oh, man. Canada's chances without Poulain. That takes a significant hit. Also, depending on how bad it is, that has much bigger ripple effects. The victoire without Poulain, without their best player, in a league where there are 8 really good teams and not 2. I hope... she came back. She did come back. As a fan of Team Canada, as a Canadian, and as a fan of Poulain, like, look, obviously, yes, when she's playing for the victoire, like, grrr, angry, but you have to respect the woman that she is, the greatest to ever do it. It is a complete shame for her to not be playing. But you also want to make sure that you don't make things worse. And at the end of the day, everyone in our group makes the quarterfinals. And even if that wasn't the case, winning this game would have clinched it, right? If only the top 4 teams in each division made it, this still would have been enough to guarantee that we're going to the quarters. So, yes, it would be nice to get the easier path. We're going to finish second or first in the group. We're going to have a fairly easy quarterfinals matchup. We're going to have a probably relatively easy semifinals matchup. Easier, at least. Again, if you look at the game against Switzerland, you look at the game against Czechia, strides were made by both nations. Again, I really do think that by the end of, the next decade at least, I do believe within the next 10 years, we will finally see that upset. We will finally see one of those teams get to the gold medal game and get a sneaky win, get a greasy win, and actually do it. And I also think, this game is a perfect example of, I thought for the most part, Czechia held their own. You look at the final score, you look at the shot differential, and that is approaching something that I could genuinely see in the PWHL. It's approaching a point where I'm like, I can see if Czechia had elite goaltending, I can see a world where they win. Like, the last time I said, there was like a 1 in 50 chance. This is like, I don't know. I can see like a, maybe not 1 in 10, but 1 in 20. I'd say 1 out of 20 times Czechia could find a way to win this game. And I think, especially in the future, if they get better goaltending, if they can get their finish a little bit better, their power plays looked dangerous. Their power plays looked really dangerous. They just needed that little extra bit to finish, and they easily could have scored 2 or 3 this game. They only let in 5. If they get an extra 2 goals, again, completely different game. We aren't there yet. And that's why I say I think we will still have a relatively easy quarter and semifinals matchup. Because nobody else is quite there yet. Will I be saying the same thing next Olympics? Who knows? The Olympics after that? Probably not. The Olympics after that? I'd say almost certainly there will be a third nation that has, at least a chance of winning gold. Like, again, you want to look at the men's, we know the big 4 are Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the United States. Do not write Czechia off, though. That's the big thing. Don't write them off. They are still a really good hockey nation. We've seen what they're capable of. Look at 98, right? So don't just write them off and say, oh, well, it's going to be Finland, Sweden, US, or Canada. I think it probably will be, but in the mix. And I think we might get to that point of like Finland or Sweden or Czechia or Switzerland will be that third team that's like in the mix and has a an outside shot of winning the gold. And every so often, they'll do it. This was an example of, I can see if they can get a little bit more, they can be a scary and a threatening team. But all of this to say, back to my original point about Poulin, do you play her against the United States if she's ready to go or not? The reason why I ask this, how much is it worth beating the US in the round robin? Is it worth the risk? Because again, let's be completely candid with ourselves. That round robin game is mostly going to matter for the rivalry. For the sake of Canada wanting to beat the US, US wanting to beat Canada, these teams at each other's throats, Canadians and Americans, this is like the rivalry of women's hockey. Other than that, we know what the story is. We know that barring a major upset, barring the biggest upset in women's Olympic hockey history, we're going to see Canada and the United States in the gold medal game. Again, we would have to see a major upset, like the likes of which we have never seen before, in order for that not to happen. Is it worth taking the best player in the world and risking making an injury worse just to win, let's be candid with ourselves, a relatively meaningless round robin game? We're going to the quarterfinals. The team that we face is, still not going to be a team that has a realistic shot of beating us, right? Like Sweden, Japan, Italy, France, Korea. I'm sorry, these aren't teams where I'm like, oh no, they could be like. I hope one day I can say like, oh, we're facing Italy. This is going to be a tough game. The same way that when Canada faces Sweden or Finland, I'm like, ooh, in the men's game, I'm like, this is going to be tough. We're facing Finland or Sweden. I hope one day when we face Finland or Sweden in the women's game, I'll be like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. Right now, it's not. Let's be candid with this. It's not going to be a tough one. It's not. It's going to maybe be a game like this where we see a lot of fight. We see great improvements. We see a nation that in the future will be competing for a gold medal. They aren't there yet. Do you risk making it worse on the best player in the world? Because again, the US could absolutely unload on us. Take us behind the barn. Just completely obliterate us. They could win 10-0. It won't matter until the gold medal game. That's when it will matter. Until the gold medal game. When they are handing out the champion. When they're handing out those medals. When it's all said and done, that's the game that matters. And I wouldn't personally want to even risk taking the best player in the world, the best player on your team, and risk injuring her in a round robin game and not having her in the gold. That's let's be honest, the one game that will matter above all else. For me personally, it's like in terms of like the excitement, it's the excitement of who's going to get bronze and also who's going to be ready next time. Czechia, their resumes, I know they have 2 5-1 losses against Canada and the US. That's decent. And to do that against both teams is really good. This shows that they are really closing the gap. These are no longer, 10-goal blowouts. This is, again, a game where I could see these stats being in like a PWHL game, a one-sided PWHL game, but they're getting there. The game starts actually all Czechia. We take a penalty, then we take another. It's a long 5-on-3. And again, in the past, we would have just seen nothing but clearing, maybe a goal. There was a lot of pressure. And we got a few lucky breaks. A few lucky bounces where Czechia could have capitalized. I counted at least 2 times where Czechia had a real good chance of taking a 1-0 lead. This game easily could have been 1-0 Czechia or even 2-0 Czechia, but, let's temper expectations. Easily could have been 1-0 Czechia 5 minutes into the game. Instead, we kill off both penalties, and then right after the kill, on the second penalty, O'Neill scores fast out of the box, gets into the play, sets it up. Beautiful. Mwah. 1-0 Canada leads. Then we have the nasty hit on Poulin. Not a fan. It's scary. You don't want to see your captain go down like that. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. There was also the Czech player who went into the boards and way too much rough stuff for my liking. And look, I like my game rough, but this is too much. And I don't think that there was, especially like some of them were freak. I think they were all kind of freak accidents. But it was a tough watch at times where you're seeing all these players go down with injury. And you're like, this is a round robin game. This is a round robin game that was 5-0 pretty quickly. It really sucks to see players going down with injury in a game like this. At least if it's the gold medal game, you're like, okay, you got to throw everything on the line. Even if Czechia gets, the upset of the century. They beat the U.S. in the semifinals, and the gold medal game is Canada-Czechia. Even if it ends up being a blowout, you want to leave everything out there on the ice. It is the most important game. You want to leave it all out there. You could have left a little bit for later. We did not need to leave everything out there, in my opinion, for this game. But in my opinion, both teams really kind of did. We got a power play, and it's unsurprisingly good, but we don't actually score on the power play. But not long after the power play, Fillier, who's been having a great tournament so far, doubles our lead. It's 2-0. And from here, it's where the wheels kind of fall off for Czechia. The first period, they started strong, and then after that first goal, it's just all Canada. We are thoroughly dominant. We've found our game. It's Laura Stacey. I mean, you hurt somebody's wife. I mean, come on. You know what's going to happen. It's Laura Stacey. This is one that the Czechs would want back. But it's a good shot, and she scores 3-0. This is more of the dominance that we're used to, that we didn't see against Switzerland. We're seeing it here. In the first period, boom, 3-0. And to top it all off, we get a power play late in the period, and we finally get a Canadian charge member who puts herself on the point sheet as Brianne Jenner assists Gosling. She scores 4-0 at the end of the first, and now we can kind of put it on cruise control. It's autopilot from here. Canada's winning this one. And Czechia took 2 late penalties in the first, so we got a 5-on-3. I mean, it's no surprise that we score on that. You give Canada a 5-on-3, you can't be surprised if they score on you, because no team's stopping that. I'm including the U.S. here. Like, if the U.S. gives Canada a 5-on-3 in a pivotal moment, shocker, Canada's probably gonna make them pay. Just like at 2014, they gave us a 4-on-3, and that was more than enough for Marie-Philippe Poulin to etch her name in history. Right out the gate, 14 seconds into the second period, with the power play extending into that period, Jenner gets her second point of the tournament. Again, assisting Gosling, she scores 5. 0. And here's where you can put it on cruise control. And to be fair, we kind of do. But Czechia also does a good job of shutting us down. Because this is our last goal. And it is early in the second period. And then, I mean, they were 14 seconds removed from shutting us out in the second and third period. Again, huge improvement to what I've seen in previous years, where we wouldn't get one 4-goal period, we would get one non-4-goal period. That is huge. And again, if you look at our the period where we were scoring a bunch of goals, we did have, or if you look at our goal total, we had 2 power play goals. That's significant. That means that, 5-on-5, maybe if Czechia in the future can play a really clean game, not take any penalties, get a few power plays of their own. Again, the women's game is growing, and this is a perfect example. Because just go to 2010 and watch Canada versus anybody that's not the US in 2010, and you can just see the difference of how much more dominant they were. They were still dominant, don't get me wrong, but not like they once were. This used to be Canada-Sweden. This used to be Canada-Finland. Canada was just the better team. What do you mean? Sweden? You think Sweden can win a gold medal in the Olympics against NHL players? What are you, nuts? And now, I mean, yeah, no, if Sweden or Finland wins gold in the Olympics, I'd be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Pretty good hockey team. Lots of great NHL star power. I can see them doing that, sure. It's reasonable. This is where Czechia is headed. Czechia is headed here. So second period, we have a lot more parity. A lot more parity. I think in part because there aren't as many penalties. We just take a penalty about halfway through. But this period, not as much dominance from Canada like there was in the first period where we just kind of steamrolled them. Czechia is making us fight for it. Are we still the better team? Obviously, yes. We still look like the better team. But they are not giving an inch. We take a penalty. They don't score. But again, they have a good power play. That is so good to see. So nice to see. Obviously, we're the better team. But Czechia is holding their own. Again, in an alternate universe where this is a 3-1 game where we don't have any power plays and they score on their power play opportunity, or at least one of them. Czechia's holding their own. You're like, well, the game's not over. That's the beauty of it. The game, would feel not over. Against Switzerland, the game didn't feel over going into the third. While this one did, Czechia did a good job in those final 40 minutes, in those last 2 periods. And Mrzova takes a penalty of that. I'm glad Mrzova's taking the bad penalties when she's playing against us. So I'll put it to you that way. And it's a good power play. We don't capitalize. That's basically how the rest of the third goes. They hold us off, we hold them off. That's how a good chunk of the third goes. And I think it's beneficial for both teams. Obviously, Canada, you're up by 5. Put it on cruise control. Put it on autopilot. Just let the game end. But for Czechia to actually hold us off, that's huge. That's something you build on next game. That's something where when you go to the semifinals against Canada or the US, you can say, no, we held them off for 40 minutes. Can we just get 20 more? Can we just get 20 more minutes and 1 greasy goal? Can we do that? Can they? I think maybe. In the third period, we take a penalty, and this time Czechia actually makes us pay for it. They score on the power play. When you keep giving a team power plays, that's bound to happen. I think they got 4 that game. And they capitalized. That's what you'd like to see. This is how teams get better. Then the rest of the game kind of, in my opinion, goes after that goal without relative incident. Canada wins 5-1. Makes me a bit more confident, right? The U.S. beat Switzerland 5-0. Beat Czechia 5-1. We beat Switzerland 4-0. Czechia 5-1. Maybe there is more parity than we once thought. Maybe we have a better chance. It'll be interesting without Poulin. I do think that's the other benefit. If Poulin doesn't play and the U.S. just absolutely works us, there will be but that was Canada without their best players. So, yeah, mind game, right? But I think, like, going into this game against the U.S., I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to the future of women's hockey. These Olympics have been great. And, I can't wait to see more. Big rivalry game, Canada-U.S. I mean, who does not love Canada-U.S. women's hockey Winter Olympics? Doesn't get better than that. I am looking forward to that one. And as always, go Canada, go!